Hi, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Ray Center and the Rose Wheel Mystery School. This is the next video in my series for the theme of 2023 being the path of love. And it has to do with Saturnia entering Pisces, leaving Aquarius, going into Pisces. So let's see what this is all about. The first thing that I want to share with you is if you do any Googling about, what are the frequencies of quote unquote Saturn, whom I refer to as Saturnia, what are the frequencies of Saturn in Pisces, you're going to receive an extremely patriarchal description that's going to feel really yucky. Of course, that's what patriarchy is all about. It doesn't feel good. It's the perversion of the sacred masculine. And so this is what's happened to the goddess Saturnia, who you see over here. The goddess Saturnia, who you can see is very nurturing of these children, is quite a different image that you get of the god Saturn over here, who is eating his own children. Now, this very much reflects what's going on in the external landscape around the world with the use of child trafficking for the purposes of making their magic elixir that starts with an A that they claim, extends their lifestyle, their lifespan and makes them younger. But then when they can no longer get the elixir, they, age drastically, kind of like the picture of Dorian Gray, I would say. So you see, we have a very distinct difference in energies between the goddess of Saturnia, who became associated with Ceres and Juno, but was known at the time as the goddess of peace. Very, very different from the god Saturn. And so the patriarchy usurped her identity and changed her from feminine to masculine, which is a known practice in satanic circles, that they will take their children and they will do sex changes on them to turn them from females to males or vice versa. So as I said, this is something that we're seeing on the world stage now, even in terms of these train wrecks that are happening in the state of Ohio, which are really being covered up by the MSM and are about, rescuing trafficked children from those trains. So I just want to warn you that if you do try to Google what does Saturn in Pisces mean, that you're going to get a very, very different translation of those frequencies than from what I'm going to offer to you today. Whichever one resonates with you is fine. No skin off my back. I'm just here to share what's coming through me, and hopefully you'll find it to be uplifting. Okay. Well, what's really exciting is yesterday, March 7th, today is March 8th, Saturn made her move. Saturnia made her move into Pisces. And it was on the same day that we had the full moon in Virgo. And there is a significance here that I want to try to tie together in your mind for you to be aware of as we move forward through this year, while Saturnia stays in Pisces. She will make a small ingress, or a brief, I should say, ingress into Aries, and then come back to Pisces. But for the most part, I want to bring your attention to the connection between the cosmic dance, the synchronicity of her move into Pisces at the same time that we had this full moon in Virgo. Now, the Virgo Pisces axis is the path of the helpmate. So when we had the full moon in Virgo last night, and we're still in the window of those full moon energies. Moon events have a window of 3 days. So we would have been feeling these from March 6th through today, March 8th, 3 days over the actual exact full moon that occurred yesterday on March 7th. So when the moon is in Virgo, in order for the moon to be illuminated as the full moon, the sun has to be completely across the sky in Pisces. So that's why we've got this Virgo Pisces axis involved with this full moon event that is really significant. And so you might be asking yourself, well, what exactly is the path of the helpmate? And what does that mean to me? And so the helpmate is someone in your life who is as equally dedicated to their sacred work as you are to your sacred work, or someone who fully supports you in your sacred work. And it, it could be both, and or, I would say, supports you in your sacred work. And so, I know a group of women, many of whom are healers, but have different kinds of healing modalities available to them. Some of them involved in other kinds of sacred work that would be outside of the teaching or the healing realm, but is still very much a part of, the ascension of humanity. And so I find that we act as helpmates for each other. I'll do readings for them, they'll do healings for me, vice versa. So working in this way as helpmates for each other, which really engages their luminary bodies that are on the Virgo Pisces axis, as well as my luminary bodies on the Virgo Pisces axis. So this axis is something that is very significant for us in terms of Saturnia's move into the Piscean energies, because we've got this Pisces side of the axis. Now, with the full moon and the new moon, what happens is when you have a new moon in a particular sign, it takes 6 months before you have a full moon in the same sign. So we're looking at Virgo and Pisces. What's going on with the new moon and the full moon? Those are the two big moon events in terms of the Pisces side of that axis and the Virgo side of the axis. So we had the new moon in Pisces February 19th. We will have the full moon in Pisces on August 30th. Now, I really encourage you, if you have access to your chart, to go to your chart and find out what the points are for that new moon in Pisces and the full moon in Pisces coming up, to see if anything is in your sign of Pisces, both in your natal chart and in your solar return chart, that's being activated by those moon events, and that will subsequently be activated by Saturnia as she makes her journey across Pisces. This is why this is significant. The other side of that is the Virgo full moon that happened yesterday when Saturnia went into Pisces. At the point where Saturnia moved into Pisces, which is 0 degrees, that would be a place that you would want to look to see if you have anything in Pisces. And at the point where the full moon happened, which was 16 degrees, you're going to want to see, did anything happen at 16 degrees of Pisces that Saturnia will subsequently move over and reactivate. So there's a lot going on with that. And then, in September, we will have the new moon in Virgo. So you see, these are cycles that kind of are more extensive than just a new moon and a full moon within 1 month. We're talking about cycles over 6 months as a part of this whole year when Saturnia is going to be going through Pisces with her journey. And I'm going to give you some dates on that in just a second. But these are two big things that you want to be aware of that she's going to be activating for you in relationship to these events that you can already go to your chart and look at and have a heads up in terms of what has been, where the previous new moon in Pisces was, and where yesterday's full moon was, and then what will be coming up in August and September that Saturnia will move over points that reactivate those cosmic events. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit more then about Saturnia's journey through Pisces. The first thing that you need to understand in relationship to this is that it takes Saturnia approximately 29 years to go around the sun. And it takes her approximately 2.5 years to move through a sign. And this approximation lends itself to the fact that as Saturnia is making her journey, she will occasionally make a retrograde journey during her time in that sign. And depending on how long the retrograde journey is and how many retrograde journeys she may have during that sign affects the timing, of course, in terms of how long she's in the sign and ultimately how long it takes her to move around the sun. So that's just some background information to be aware of, which will explain these dates here. So yesterday, March 7th, is when she made what they call her ingress into Pisces. She entered into the Piscean realm, into the Piscean landscape, and she will be there through May 24th. And then on May 25th, she'll move from 29 degrees of Pisces into that 0 degrees of Aries. And she will stay in Aries through September 1st. And then she will come back into Pisces September 2nd next year, 2025. I mean, the following year, 2025. And then I'm sorry, I'm looking at this because I'm wondering if I got these dates down right. I just want to double check. Sometimes I make a typo, but yeah, it looks like I wrote the dates down right. And then she will go from September 2nd, 2025 through February 13th, 2026 in Pisces. And then she'll go into Aries again and stay in Aries. So you can see that from March 2023 all the way to February 13th, 2026, that's almost 3 years. It's certainly more than 2.5 years, but we do have, this, what is that? About 4 months where she's going to be in Aries as well. So the whole time that she'll be in Pisces will probably, shake out to about 2.5 years. So that's why this year, especially where that full moon in Virgo happened on the day she made this ingress into Pisces yesterday, is significant because it takes us 6 months out in this year. And we know that this rest of this year, 2023, she'll be in Pisces. All of 2024, she'll be in Pisces. And then, as I said, these 4 months she'll be in Aries, and then back in Pisces again. So I hope that that makes sense. I encourage you to pause the video and write those dates down. Now, what is it that you need to be aware of as Saturnia is going through Pisces in terms of how it's going to, how she's going to impact you? The first big thing is having a Saturn return or a Saturn opposition. So what that means is if when you were born, Saturnia was in the sign of Pisces, then you may be having a Saturnia return as she goes through Pisces this time, based on these dates of birth and ages. So what I need to say is, again, the beginning date and the ending date are approximations. So in 1993, at some point, she would have moved into Pisces from Aquarius. And in 1996, at some point, she would have moved from Pisces to Aries. So, you know, you need to know, obviously, your date of birth to figure out if during those specific years, 93 and 96, if you were born when she was either in Aquarius or Pisces or Aries. So it does take a little work, but this is just an approximation. So if you're in this age range, 27 to 30, you may very likely be having your first Saturnia return. And then likewise down here, the second Saturnia return would be happening if you're in this age range of 56 to 59, born between 64 and 67. Again, regarding 64 and 67, you would need to know, you know, when in those years, in 64, when Saturnia went from Aquarius into Pisces, and from 67 when she went from Pisces into Aries, to know, you know, exactly whether or not you're having a Saturnia return. And then for the elders in our community, they may be even having a third Saturnia return if they're in this age group 85 to 88 and born between 35 and 38. I know my dad was born in 37, so he will very definitely be having a Saturnia return. So those are the returns. The oppositions mean then if your Saturnia in your natal chart is in Pisces, the opposite of Pisces, you now know, is Virgo, right? That's the axis, Virgo, Pisces. That's why I made a big deal about it in the first couple of slides. So when Saturnia comes back to Virgo, you would be having an opposition. However, same story reversed. If your Saturnia was in Virgo in your natal chart, well, now that she's in Pisces, you would be having an opposition. That's how it works. So these Saturnia returns and oppositions are significant rites of passage. And sadly, through our culture, rites of passage have been lost, other than like in the Jewish culture, they still do bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs as a rite of passage. In the Native American and other cultures that are indigenous cultures, they do rites of passages. But for especially the Western world, this is something that's been lost, and it's very, very, it's a very empowering time. And so this was just another way that the patriarchy could disempower us by taking away the significance of these rites of passage. And which is why, you know, oftentimes in Christianity, anything to do with astrology is considered, you know, the devil's work. And because that was a part of the disempowerment program. So a lot of people that are familiar with the Saturnia return meet that with a lot of hesitation because they've been programmed to believe that it's a real hardship time for them. But really, in fact, it's a time of mastery. It's a time of upping your game in terms of what you will be mastering, the skills that you will be mastering, the frequencies that you will be mastering over the next, 28, 29 years. And so, again, because it's a mastery rite of passage, very empowering to be a master of certain gifts that you are born with. This is why the disempowerment campaign was put into place. So please don't dread your Saturnia return. If you're due for one, it's look forward to it. And if you need to have a reading done, a Saturnia reading done, I'm very happy to do that. I've done a lot of those and I find them fascinating. So you can contact me if you'd like to have a reading done on your Saturnia return. So this is why Saturnia's ingress into Pisces might be very significant for you if you're getting ready to have a return or an opposition in the sign of Pisces related to Saturnia. Okay, so what are some other aspects that will be significant for you as she's moving through Pisces? Well, Saturnia is the goddess of Capricorn. So if your ascendant is in Capricorn, or if Saturnia herself is in your first house, this will have a very significant influence for you. The other thing is if your North Node is in Capricorn, this will be very significant for you. And if your North Node is wherever it is, specifically in Pisces, well, not specifically in Pisces, but your North Node, wherever it is in your chart, is conjunct Saturnia, in any aspect that she would make from Pisces to your North Node and Saturnia, natal Saturnia, is going to be significant. So, without looking at your chart, I can't really tell you, but these are some things that you can be aware of and why this move might be important for you to have that awareness. Okay. The other thing is as Saturnia is moving through Pisces, you're going to want to be very, very aware of the luminary bodies that you have in Pisces, not only in your natal chart, but also in your solar return chart. So for one thing, I can tell everybody has got Neptune in Pisces in their solar return chart. I can tell you that for sure. It's a matter of where Neptune in Pisces is, but when Saturnia moves over that degree, that's going to be a huge activation for you. And it will be for any luminary bodies that you have in your natal chart or your solar return chart. So these are a lot of things that you're going to want to keep in mind as she's making her journey to see, what frequencies that she's helping to bring online from you from the unified source field. That's Pisces. Pisces is unity consciousness, the unified source field. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the things. And, we're infinite and eternal beings. So these frequencies, both for Saturnia and Pisces, can be translated in a myriad of ways, and their individual energies are blending together as she moves across, kind of like when you did watercolor painting You know, you put one color of paint on the paper and another color of paint on the paper, and the water allows them to blend together. And with Pisces, you know, there are no boundaries like there are with Saturnia. So, you know, those energies are free to merge together into each other. And if you think of even like blending colors, like, you know, red and blue makes purple, that kind of a free flow of energies that's making something new. Now, this just comes to my mind to share because I had this conversation yesterday with a friend, and we were talking about her husband and the fact that because Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, rules his chart, some of the issues that he may be having could be related to the fact that he hasn't figured out for himself how to create a container to hold the water frequencies that are moving through him. And the analogy I gave to her is, you know, think about your kitchen sink. If you turn on the faucet tap, and you've got a plug in the sink, well, pretty quickly, the sink is going to fill up. That's the container for the water. But if you don't turn off the tap, it's going to overflow and flood your house. And for people that have a hard time working with water element energies, they can very often feel overwhelmed by them, like they're drowning, right? Like they can't keep their head above water. That's the feeling if they have a hard time creating a kind of structure, an inner structure for that water to flow through them. So even think about like a creek, right? You know, if there's a lot of rain, the banks of the creek are keeping the water contained and the water is flowing. It's contained by the boundaries of the banks. But if there's a lot of rain, what can happen? The water can be coming down so quickly that it jumps the bank and starts to flood. Okay, this is what can happen for people that don't have the ability to navigate the water energies coming through them. And so what I would say is that Saturnia in Pisces is, and it's not one of the things I listed here, which is why I'm taking the time to share this analogy with you, is going to facilitate your ability to shore up your processing, integrating, broadcasting these water frequencies from Pisces. Pisces is a water sign. A lot of people compare Pisces as a water sign to the ocean, right? The wave, who we are as individuals coming out of the ocean, which is source. I know Thich Nhat Hanh has even talked about the wave realizing it's part of the ocean. So Saturnia will help us with that, either help you to firm that up for yourself or to create and manifest that ability for yourself so that you're no longer feeling overwhelmed, like you're going to drown, like you can't catch your breath, right? Like you can't keep your head above water, right? That you're like, what do they call that? When you're like, oh, I can't find the word. When you're in the pool, but you're not swimming and you're just staying stationary and your feet are going 100 miles an hour to keep you above water so that you don't sink, right? So that's very important to understand. And so in terms of containment for water, think about the different kinds of containment that there can be. You can have a thimble full of water. You can have a pitcher full of water, a sink full of water, a tub full of water, an Olympic-sized pool, and the ocean. And, every size in between. So what is your capacity? So some people might just be getting the capacity to hold a thimbleful of water and work with that. Others might be graduating into their Olympic sized pool or the ocean in terms of being able to allow these water energies to flow through them in a productive way without flooding, right? Flooding causes all kinds of destruction, so we don't want that. So Saturnia will very much be helping us with that. The other thing that she'll be doing is she is going to give us the ability to master our divine inheritance. Every single one of us has a divine inheritance, and I talk about that in my Galactic New Earth projects. I talked about that in my video of seeding the new Earth. And so when we get into the Leo Venus synodic cycle in August of this year, we will be talking a lot more about our divine inheritance, because Leo is the goddess of royal divinity and has to do with our divine inheritance. And so isn't it interesting that, Saturnia is paving the way for us to be able to work with those frequencies in that new Venus synodic cycle that'll be coming up. So remembering that Saturnia is all about mastery. And where Saturnia is located in your chart are the skills of mastery that you've brought into this lifetime for you. They're not skills that you're desiring to master. They're skills that you have mastered and brought in with you. And as you have a solar return chart where Saturnia is in your solar return chart, those are skills that you will be given the opportunity to master. Okay. The other thing that she will do for us is she will give us the ability to be a way shower for unity consciousness. A way shower is related to those Saturnia Capricorn energies. And of course, unity consciousness is related to the Pisces energies. So for those of you that have very strong Capricorn and or Saturnia energies and feel a calling as a way shower, especially for humanity through this ascension, this will be one of the new pathways that you may be inspired to go down and assist humanity with in terms of being a way shower for unity consciousness. And we know that this is where humanity is evolving to, because we've got to be able to have unity consciousness in order to have a global community so that we can then step into a galactic community. So these are the steps of the evolution where we're going towards. The other thing that Saturnia will allow us to do when she's in Pisces is to utilize the unconditional love frequencies as our own personal creative grid. I've talked about this before in other videos. Whenever you're going to manifest anything, you have to have some kind of a framework for it, whether it's, the footprint for a house that you're going to build, whether it's a loom that you're going to weave a tapestry on, whether you're going to paint something, you need to have, can't remember what you call the thing that you paint on, but you have to have some kind of a framework to be able to manifest from. And so Saturnia as a creative gateway for manifestation, as birthing those outer energies into our external reality, she has to create some kind of a grid work in order for us to do that through. And so while she's in Pisces, we'll be able to utilize the frequency of unconditional love to build the grid work so that whatever we're wanting or desiring to manifest will be manifested and created from that foundation of unconditional love. That's really spectacular. The other thing that she will allow us to do is to manifest, and manifest straight from source. While she was in Aquarius, I talked on several occasions about her allowing us to have the ability to manifest from our multidimensional selves, having the ability to manifest from the quantum field. To me, some people might think that the quantum field and source is all of the same, but in my mind, the way that I see it, if you think of like a balloon that you blow up, the balloon as source is the container for the quantum field, which is the air that you blew up the balloon with. That's how I perceive it. You may not perceive it that way, but that's how I do. And so definitely she will allow us to manifest directly from source, which I perceive to be even a higher frequency of manifestation than what we were able to do when she was in Aquarius. And then another thing that she'll be able to let us do is stand in our sovereignty. Saturnia is a sovereignty goddess as an embodiment of divine love. Pisces is all about divine love. Capricorn, which is the sign that Saturnia is the goddess of, is an earth sign, has to do with embodiment. So really being sovereign beings that are, standing firm, both feet firm in that frequency of divine love that we're embodying. So all of these are really huge shifts forward for humanity in terms of our ascension. This is not something that you're going to hear about when you Google Saturn and Pisces. You're going to hear something completely opposite. Okay, so just beware of that. All right, so at this point, I'd just like to thank you for sticking with me through this video. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell so you'll be notified when I put up new content, and please give it a thumbs up so that more people can receive the content that I am putting out on my channel. My channel is the Rose Wheel Mystery School. And if you have any questions about anything I've discussed tonight, you can certainly email me at sophiamonalisa79@gmail.com. And I just encourage you to do that. Remember that Sophia starts with an F. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a great night. Bye.